This is the One Piece Podcast, episode 538 for the week of September 24th, 2018. My name is Ed.
My name is Steve.
And my name is Alex.
And joining us this week, first we have our very special guest, the translator for One Piece and Weekly Shonen Jump, that's Stephen Paul.
That's me.
Right on. And we also have our anime recap host and writer of the One Piece reviews for Anime News Network, Sam Leach.
Would it be news to any of you guys if I told you people are really horny for Bowser right now?
Oh, God.
Not at all.
And on this
Everybody already knows.
Yeah.
Trump.
I want them to know again.
Why are you talking about this like it's new?
We're just time stamping this episode for anybody who listens to it in the future.
Yeah, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, remember
That week."
Right. So we've got anime recap for episode 854 coming up. Also, manga recap at chapter 918. Luffy Taro returns the favor. But first, as you heard, we have our news host and editor-in-chief. That's Kelly. She's here with us today.
Hi, everyone.
Right on. And Kelly, I think you have some news for us in the opening segment here.
Yes, I have quite a bit of news.
All
so,
right.
Starting out, we are going to get a new One Piece opening theme song on Sunday, October 7th. Well, Saturday night here in the U.S., but it's by the Japanese boy band called V6, and the song is called Superpowers.
Like a V6.
Yes, like a V6. So basically, there's going to be an article on the site tomorrow about it, but basically at a high level, it's just the theme is everybody has powers and has something special about them.
Are we sure we're talking about One Piece and not My Hero Academia?
It's kind of funny. That's the first thing I thought too. But yeah, we'll have to see. I don't know this band, but I know they're very popular. So
maybe they'll have the One Piece Mugiwara 56 superhero.
Oh my God!
In the opening, that'd be cool.
That would be the best thing ever.
Because they're not going to put any Wano. They're not going to put Wano in it. It's way too far off.
It's very true.
I hope it just turns out to be like the Poke Rap, but with all the Devil Fruit abilities. There's 5 versions. You gotta watch. Well, actually,
Gum, chop, chop, smoke, smoke, slip, slip.
In 5-part harmony with a boy band.
75 more to go.
Oh God!
Today.
Does that mean the eye catches would be like, who's that gum fruit or who's that devil fruit?
Yeah,
I like that.
Just some horrible silhouette of a circle, and you just can't tell.
Or a fruit. It's like, oh, it's a banana.
We tricked you.
Oh man. All right. I'm excited. I'm excited for that, but like, I feel like I've been underwhelmed a little bit by openings, but I'm willing to keep an open mind.
Yeah, and we also have some video game news. So as you know, TGS, Tokyo Game Show, just wrapped up, and there were a couple announcements for both Jump Force and for One Piece World Seeker. So Jump Force has a tentative release date of February 2019, and they just announced a collector's edition, which has 3 artboards, a figure that's actually Naruto, Goku, and Luffy in like a diorama thing. So those 3 characters all together on one figure, as well as a steel box. And if any of you want to play it and haven't played it yet, there is a closed beta registration that's going on right now. And that registration is open till Sunday, October 7th. And if you want to register, you can go on Bandai Namco's site under the news section. And the beta is going to run from October 12th through the 14th. And that's going to be both Xbox as well as PlayStation.
Cool. I didn't realize this was going to be available for Xbox as well. It seems unusual for a Japanese game.
And I've played it actually on both consoles now. So I don't know if it's going to go to anything else, but I know it's definitely on those 2. And you've probably seen that Yu Yu Hakusho characters and Yu-Gi-Oh characters were announced during the Tokyo Game Show.
Yeah, that's right. Toguro especially looks like the only character who really fits in this universe.
Very true. And last bit of news on World Seeker, and that is that we were introduced to a character named Jean, and a little bit more about the story for World Seeker. Still no release date except for 2019, but essentially the island where most of this game is taking place, you've got a pro and an anti-marine faction. And Jean is sort of the leader of this anti-Navy group who's going to team up with Luffy during his adventure on this island.
So what you're saying is that Luffy is going to be Antifa Spider-Man.
Yes.
It's kind of what he is anyway. Anyway,
well, I
Steven,
have one more
go ahead.
small piece of news here. I didn't see anyone talking about this, but at least as of this week's the cover page of this week's One Piece chapter in Japanese, they have announced an October 19th release date for the 4th volume of the One Piece magazine. Although they don't have a product page up yet on Amazon Japan for that, which seems like it's getting close enough that they probably could. But I'm guessing we'll probably see something like that pretty soon up there where you can pre-order it.
Ooh, gotta get that.
Yeah.
And just funnily enough, looking at my email, I've got an email from Sume. So it looks like that Ace high quality statue is supposed to come out in the last quarter of this year.
Wow.
Because I had forgotten I bought it.
It happens sometimes. All right, so we should go into the manga recap first.
Let's do it.
Sure. Yeah.
This is the manga recap for chapter 918. Luffy Taro returns the favor, and on the cover, it's the Saga of the Self-Proclaimed Straw Hat Fleet, Volume 45, final chapter. Pleased to meet your acquaintance, Part 1. Hold on! Final chapter, Part 1. What's wrong here?
Even the final chapter isn't the actual final chapter in this series.
God damn it.
Oh man, I blame Orlumbus.
I don't know, Orlumbus got a few good jokes in.
don't know.
I was floored by a couple of the Orlumbus ones.
Sorry, guys, bear with me, but Orlumbus truly is the hillbilly Jim of One Piece cover stories.
So it's just going to be like a lineup of the guys we already know are there.
No, it's their banners because
yeah.
Bellamy.
I guess yeah.
So I'm willing to bet that it's going to end with
Bellamy made these
Bellamy.
for them.
I do find it funny that Cavendish's white horse is now black, and he has a white flag even though he's a pirate. It's weird.
Sure.
Oh, see,
It's pink.
I was just going to guess that Bellamy would be at the end and his would be the Straw Hat flag. But that would be weird.
He reveals his new tattoo.
Yeah.
It's
dick butt.
it's the Straw Hat logo, except it has that stupid Doflamingo smile on it now.
Oh my god.
You know, I was thinking Calvin pissing on the straw hat.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh, man. All right, does anyone else have in-depth thoughts about the banners?
It's really creepy how Bartolomeo's middle fingers kind of just wrap around his index fingers like string cheese.
That's what he does.
He's trying to be
That's a
Luffy.
fog.
Anyway. All right, so on the first page, we get the aftermath of the punch. Everyone's on fire, mostly Hold'em and Luffy, and he's getting knocked off the top of the building there, and everyone is concerned for Master Hold'em. We see Tama, she's got this, tears in her eyes, but she's also like in awe, and then Luffy's arm shoots out to catch her, and they sort of tumble to the ground, and Zoro's like, you gone and done it now. But don't stop. Head to the entrance of town, and Kumachio is he's very intense. So I guess the Kaido's men and Speed are tending to Master Hold'em, and Speed is like, "Did he beat you in a single blow? Who is he?" And they start to chase after Luffy. Hold on, wait up, you. Let's get out of here. And Luffy sees the rear end of Speed. It's a horse, of course.
You just call me a horse's ass.
That is a crown, you horse's ass. MVP of this chapter, the bottom right of page 2, is Walrus Man. No relation to Ponda Baba.
Oh yeah, now I see it. I didn't see the horns or the tusks, I should say.
It's got a walrus head.
Oh wow! I didn't even
Pretty
notice that.
And there's a guy in the one above him who has like a wolf head.
Oh man!
No one wants to acknowledge the walking, talking skeleton with a beard.
Oh yeah.
Maybe that's just a mask.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me.
Maybe.
I hold out hope.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Skeleton smile.
Anyway, that's it for that page.
All right. So moving on, Luffy sees the back of Speed and screams, "Perfect timing! A horse! Let's go! Eek! Who's manhandling me? Miss Speed! Hey, what's the big idea?" And she's turning around and yelling at him, and he's in shock. "A person! No, wait, a horse! Drag him off of her!" And they're running and arguing, and Luffy has asked Tama to make some dumplings and is going to attempt to control the horse, and really not sure if that's going to work. But Speed goes, "Nee, that looks good," and takes a bite right away, and she is now convinced with a "Nee, where to, master? Wow, it worked." So they're basically just running off, and Tama's not really sure how that worked, but how, maybe because she's half horse.
Right.
Okay, Horse Selena, after that treasure barge.
Stephen,
she's too fast.
what is that name?
That's just Luffy. It's like, okay, well, she's a horse and she's a lady. Horsalina.
Wow.
Yeah. It was more of a Japanese pun originally, obviously, but I was like, okay, this is one of Luffy's classic, just on the spot nicknames, so gotta come up with something.
I like the arguing between the two, where she's like, "I'm not your servant," but as soon as Tama's like, "Oh, please do what he says, miss." "Yes, master." And everyone in the town is still really perplexed. They don't understand what's happened. And does he have some kind of dirt on Speed the headliner? And then we are running away while Tama finally starts to have a conversation with Luffy of, "Big bro, in that fight back there."
So a few things on this page. First of all, I don't know how seriously to take it or not, but we were talking, or me and Zach were split last week on whether or not Speed, like whether her 350-degree eyesight was like a real thing, or if that was just her like bragging. It was like something that she made up and was pretending was true. And the picture is kind of muddied here because in that second panel, like she actually turns around to face Luffy, like she looks over her back to stare at him and yell at him. Whereas I feel like if he really wanted to dedicate himself to the joke and to play it off like it's real, then he maybe would not have done that. And the other thing that I liked, which is pretty ambiguous, was that I don't think you can really tell whether or not like Tama's dumpling actually did the trick to like, is this just Speed being like, "Oh wow, that looks really good. That's really tasty. I owe you my life now," or is it like literally her, her dumpling powers taming Speed? Is it the devil fruit power, or is this just Speed's personality? Is she just like easily swayed like this?
Give her a present.
All of Kaido's underlings have been stupid, kind of so far.
Yeah, exactly.
But normally I wouldn't agree with that. But like they've all been goofy.
Well, when you give a horse a dumpling.
I was going to ask if she wanted to control Hold'em, would she have to feed the lion, or would Hold'em's mouth work? That was my question.
Well, I mean, they might not get along.
Yeah, just feed the lion and not feed the top and watch them fight each other to the death.
That'd be super funny to see Hold'em get dragged around by his lion.
I would love to see that.
His lion tummy.
So we turn the page, and Otama's eyes are lighting up. "You're just like Ace," and she's remembering the Red Hawk we saw just a second ago, with the little drawing of Ace underneath it. Reminding, it's easy to forget that the Red Hawk was supposed to be an homage to Ace in the first place.
Right.
And Luffy's just like, "What? What'd you say?" And Otama is like, "Oh, nothing. I didn't say nothing at all." And she's giving Luffy an adorable little hug.
It's very cute. It's very cute.
Something is registering on Luffy's face. I think he's understanding where she's coming from. So then we come to the near entrance to Bakura Town, and a Mr. Trafalgar Law is saying, "I will have your life." But Hawkins does not know for sure who this is yet, and he's saying, "Who goes there?" And you see Law's hands swish up. Room. Law is thinking. A big bubble shows up. Law is thinking to himself, "Roro Noah is over there, and he knows the plan. He wouldn't be stupid enough to let Hold'em get crushed." That's very wishful thinking. Law. If they mess with him, it's all over.
So it's so interesting that Hawkins, that panel directly leads from him saying, "Who goes there?" and showing off Law's tattoos, like I suggested last week.
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing right here, where Hawkins is noticing the power. He's noticing the tattoos. He's thinking to himself, "Well, it is possible the two of them had an alliance after all." And that Law is chucking. Is that a rock?
Looks like it.
Get lost, Hawkins. I like how Law and Hawkins are both just so burdened. Just like everything they have to deal with.
Yeah, annoyed Trafalgar Law is the best kind of Trafalgar Law.
It's hard for them to both be second billing in these groupings that they're stuck with.
And we move to the second half of Law's attack, where he yells out Chambres and then immediately appears in front of Hawkins with a great slash across his torso there. And we see that actually has impacted other members of Hawkins' party, which surprises Law a little bit. And we see a bunch of his teammates split in half there, and "Help me! Huh? You're alive? What does this mean? Take off your hat. This is pointless," because clearly we all know who it is at this point. So what kind of power was that? So he's not really sure. He's probably not too super familiar with Hawkins' power at that point. But we have a knocking off of the hat to show another hat. So a hat on top of a hat with Trafalgar Law underneath. And we have this really cool panel in the middle here with everybody in that group sort of split into pieces, with Law just sort of swirling around in the background there. And they make eye contact with one another.
I look at his like Law's smiley face. He's so much happy. He's so much happier. He's like,
The staring lines, those intensity lines around the eyes.
That's Law's version of a shit-eating grin right there. It's like, I got you now.
I feel like Hawkins is probably in dire straits right now, considering all of his decoys are split in half now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that seems to be what Law, like, that's kind of the implication here, is that Law figured it out, because on the next page, as they're kind of in this little stalemate where they can talk up close, he's like, you figured that out quick. And Law says, "Look, it's just a bluff. Murder isn't my style. I am a doctor." And
he may be in dire straits, but they are brothers in arms.
Very good.
He's a doctor, but he's also surgeon of death.
Yes.
It's true. There's a lot of good dialogue on this page.
Maybe he's had a lot of unsuccessful surgeries.
What do you think his malpractice?
He just can't get rid of that nickname.
Yes, the Dr. Law. Hi, everybody. And Hawkins he welcomes him to Wano. When was the last time, Sabouti? But you don't seem to be a tourist when your entire alliance is in the country. And Law's like, "What? How did you know?" You didn't think I was aware. I ran across Straw and his bunch earlier. I assumed you wanted to silence me before your cover was blown. So they both kind of got the measure of each other at this point. And the transponder snail goes off, and someone is reporting in that the brigands have defeated Master Hold'em. They're on the run, and the report has already been made to Jack. And so Law he's immediately been proven wrong here about Zoro. He's like, "Oh, God, those idiots! This is the worst possible thing that could have happened." And speaking of the idiots, there's Zoro, and he is yelling at people to get out of the way. He's yelling at this meeting here. "Get out of the way! Coming through!" And here comes the food treasure barge with Komachio pulling it. They're in a hurry, And Law is just another great, like, kind of subtle page here of him just like, what the fuck, with his mouth open like that. And we see the barge is like running over all of the kind of I guess the bisected mooks here. They're just kind of flying up in the air as this huge vehicle crashes through. And then come Hold'em's forces from behind there. After them, they're food thieves. And Law is, I guess he's up on the barge now, and he's just like, you! And
this is a Three Stooges cartoon. It's a Three Stooges sketch.
Sora's is like, oh, hey, Traffy.
I love that everybody on the Straw Hat crew calls him Traffy or Torao or,
Yeah. His nickname.
It's super cute. I really like that. And on the food barge, they continue to have a little dialogue. I seem to remember you swearing up and down you wouldn't make waves, but not only are you a wanted man, you've also called Jack down upon us. And aren't you supposed to be a Ronin in the flower capital? What are you doing in Kuri? So Zoro is clearly not at all fazed by Law chewing him out, as is to be expected. Meanwhile, Okiku is wondering who this is. Is everything okay? Well, either way, we're leaving the town soon, Zorojuro. And Zoro says, good, let's go to Okobore town and unload this stuff.
This next series of panels.
Oh, yeah.
My God.
So, here we are in Okobore town. Things seem to be kind of carrying over from earlier when you have the little boy who's crying about being hungry earlier and his mother chewing him out a bit. But then he sees something in the distance. Then we see a panel of an old man watching all the children run by to see what the commotion is. And then we get a panel that's straight out of a Jitageki film where the mother is about to either murder herself and the baby or both or just one. I can't tell if they're just going to kill the baby to eat it or just spare, like just take everybody with them because they've entered such a abysmal situation. But right before she's about to do something unspeakable, townsfolk runs in and says "rah." Of course, that sound is all the commotion outside. And what is that commotion? Why, it's food. That's right, the treasure barge that the two Straw Hats and Law and Okiku, all them, they've brought it. And the entire town, the entirety of Okobore town is on their way to check out what they've brought. A treasure barge, but why? What for? Are we really allowed? Well, before anybody can answer that, the kids are already chowing down on pineapples and fruits and oatmeals and orangutans and fruit bats. And and
even the dead fish are happy.
That's right. That is a smiling fish.
Eat me, you deserve it.
Yeah, they're chowing down on some fish. You see a lot of grateful old women in their beads. And is that I forget Okiku? Is that the name? No, not Okiku. Tsuru.
Otsuru, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that is Otsuru, who looks upon the scene with a tear in her eye.
And in case you didn't notice, there's a broken skull in the forefront,
in the
very
foreground
forefront
there.
of the big panel there.
So
Yeah,
yes.
this is such a I love this panel just because it's such a great contrast of like what is actually happening here, and it really hits home that I don't know I have more thoughts after the chapter. So
and you can see that the lady who was praying for the woman and the baby is about to get killed. She's praying on her beads in the next panel too.
So the first time I saw that bottom panel, I didn't think that was a floral pattern. I thought it was blood spatter, and I was like, "Oh my god, we should
God.
kill already!" I was like, "She's killed a bunch of people." and
Stop me
then
before I kill
she's
again.
She'll kill again.
God, we don't need another ending like The Mist.
Seriously. Yeah, I had to do
Uh,
like a take at that panel.
I think I saw some people say that, oh wow, that's a pretty dark panel, but I think it's a very important panel to show exactly what state Okobore Town and the rest of Wano is in. Like,
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not something you see in One Piece all that often, you know?
There's no way that's making it into the anime.
I don't know. I feel like I'm usually pretty surprised by what does make it in.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I just feel like if that's edited in any way, I wouldn't be surprised.
Just about to eat a California cheeseburger.
That's the 4 Kids version.
She's carving a turkey, really. They just changed the baby into a turkey.
I'm so hungry, I could eat at Arby's.
you guys, don't worry, guys, it's a rubber knife.
That's the most obvious joke.
Okay. So the
Gotta make them all.
the Kaido crew who are in Okobore Town are like, hey, stop right there, people. Those aren't leftovers yet. Hey, pay attention to me. Hey, here's some...
Ed.
What?
Ed. Can you describe who is in this panel here?
Please.
Oh, sure. We have Batman, beard, rabbit beard, and what appears to be a snake dong man.
His name is Bunnybeard.
Well, I hope that I've at least named Snake Dong Man.
Oh no! That guy's name is Boa Hiscock.
Oh.
And I'm
Or Boa Mancock? I don't know.
No, that's the gender bent version from the SBS.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I want that to be an episode title so bad.
You know, maybe.
Your wish may be granted.
Yeah. So this is I love this joke though because he's like, those aren't leftovers yet. Hey, pay attention to me. Here's some water. Here.
With no poison.
Take it. It's on the house. Wait, I mean, it's on you. I'm Luffy Taro. If anyone
Looney
asks,
Tune.
you tell them
It's a
my
Looney
name.
Tunes sketch.
What the hell just happened?
I was trying to do a whistle thing. It didn't work. Anyway, so yeah, they got the water and everything. Thank you so much, Luffy Taro. He's like he's the Robin Hood of Wano now. How many years has it been since we had this much drinking water? And Luffy finally notices. Hey, Traffy, it's been a long time, huh? Straw Hat, let me be clear. This is a rebellion against Wano. And Tama's not listening. Her heart's beating fast. She got an apple. She sings it. This is me repaying the favor to Tama for feeding me. At least the start of it. Hey, make sure I get some of that meat too, you guys. He's already not paying attention to law. He had one thing to say to him, and now he's eating. So the fire back in the upper town, I forget its name already, is spreading. Bakura Town. The fire is spreading in Bakura Town. And where are the firefighters? They were so enthusiastic before.
They're too busy putting on a kabuki play across town.
They're kind of like that traveling play from The Night is Short, Walk On Girl, if everyone else saw that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And this one of my favorite panels, favorite jokes with this. Hang in there, Master Hold'em. The lion's still conscious for some reason. Well, the lion didn't get punched. He's just sitting there flailing his arms like, Grr.
I could have been a contender. Let me at it.
Let me at him.
Everybody who has a cat knows that when the tummy is up, that is not an invitation to rub. That's right. A danger zone.
Yep, he just needs his legs.
Yep.
So, Hawkins is on. I guess that's the Denden Mushi. There, he says, "Yes, doesn't reflect well upon me, but with 3 of such difficulty at once, even I had no recourse." And he's just simmering. He's very angry right now. He's annoyed.
Yeah, he's I think his catchphrase is just angry face.
I'll be in my room.
Crying.
But I just like he's calmly talking on the phone while the town's on fire around him.
Yeah. Well, he's making excuses. He's just like, yeah, I know this doesn't look good, but there were 3 of them. They ganged up on me. What can I do?
I don't have it with me.
Well, the town's on fire. How about yours? That's the way he likes it, and he never gets bored.
No. Rockstar is on the Red Hair Pirates.
Sure, we'll just say that song is called Rockstar now. Anywho, a little bit of time passes, and like Luffy just takes a seat and tries to say something cool, like "Don't celebrate like this is special, Tama. We'll make it so that this is normal." As she munches on her juicy apple, and she kind of says, "Big bro." But Luffy continues his little monologue here. He says, "By the time we leave this country, it'll be a place where you could eat as much as you want every single day." And Tama's eyes start to well up as she thinks back to what Ace said, the same exact thing. Says, next time we come back to this country, it'll be a place where you could eat as much as you want. Basically the same thing. And she starts weeping, and Luffy's like, "What, you don't want that?" She's like, "No, I'm so happy." She's great. And so I was like, "Well, you really gone and done it this time." They're coming after us for real now. Prepare yourselves for trouble. And Law's like, "You don't get to say that. I get to say that. Those are my lines." And
Like, hey, Law, you had your own arc already. Chill out.
No, I get to take out at least 3 villains. No fights for Robin. Stay tuned for our Dressrosa read-through. Anyway, Law points up at the mountains. It's like, "Look, we gotta move. We gotta go to that mountaintop where the ruins of the Odin Castle are. You'll want to meet the ghosts of Wano."
The ghosts of Wano.
Ghosts of Wano.
Yes, that's what Luffy says. You'll be stunned. Zoro says, "Yeah, it got me too. You'll come to know a truth that you cannot believe." And we see the graves of not only Kazuki Odin, but Kazuki Momonosuke, vassals, Kinemon, Kanjuro, and Raizo, and someone else.
And some other guys.
You get a bang.
To be continued.
And guys.
Well, presumably the one with the topper on it behind Odin's is his predecessor, because they don't have those unless you're a member of like the Lord's family. It looks like.
Oh, okay.
If you're a vassal,
or maybe his wife or something like that.
Maybe that.
Yeah.
But it looks like the members of his immediate family have the little thing on top of their gravestone.
Yeah, and it looks like the far right and
true.
left are probably more vassals.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think so. But man, this is just like the most out of nowhere cliffhanger. Like,
Yeah.
nothing in this chapter would have indicated this. But
No.
I'm curious. It got my attention.
Shall we discuss this?
Yeah, Sam, why don't you go first?
I'm not quite sure how to feel about this chapter yet. Something I've been feeling in Wano is just like how much, like it almost feels like we're moving between scenes almost like too fluidly. Like when we have like major characters grouping back up, like when Law is in the same panel as Zoro and Luffy, I'm always thinking like I missed something. Like what was there a scene where they got back together? Just because it's just so like low key about those things, and this ending kind of feels that way too. And I don't know how to feel about this cliffhanger, because it's like you can easily come up with explanations for what these gravestones are, like the people of Wano think that these people are dead, or these graves were prepared for them but never got filled or whatever, and the ghost thing just feels like a red herring that isn't trying that hard, you know.
But what if they're like real ghosts? You know,
that would be amazing. But then I feel like you gotta hit that way harder if that's really what you want to convince me of right now.
Yeah.
But like, I'm interested in whatever story we're about to learn is. Like, I'm sure it's going to be an interesting story. I'm given zero information as to what kind of interesting it's going to be. I like Robin Hood Luffy. We've got a nice clear like goal. Luffy has a personal investment in what happens now, so that's generally a good idea. And Otama is cute, and I love burdened Law and Hawkins.
This is what it's like being, with an emperor like that, because you can't really challenge them.
He's an emperor.
Yeah, like Hawkins. Yeah. The relationship between Hawkins, I guess the relationship between Hawkins and Kaido is much more hierarchical, but like realistically, Luffy is leading this alliance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Hawkins is the Law of Kaido's crew.
I mean, he's probably not even that important, but he fulfills a similar purpose. Yeah. Anyway, Kelly, what do you think?
So I'm equally as perplexed by the end of the chapter, but I think the real standout, besides the fact that I just have to say that Tama is the most precious thing ever, and I want no harm to ever come to her. I absolutely adore her, and I didn't think I would in the beginning, to be perfectly honest. I was like, it's another scrappy kid. It's every filler arc scrappy kid over again. So I will be the first to say, when she first came on, I did not really have any vested interest. I absolutely adore her. I love how she kind of reminds me a little bit of Luffy in some of the ways that she acts. So I'm happy that she's currently safe. I think the big standout panel for me really was the coming back into town with the food. And, there's been, I'm sure, conversations about sort of the whole environmental aspect and that underlying theme in this arc. And I just think that this panel with the treasure ship of food coming in was just so extremely powerful. And I really kind of like that underlying message about pollution and safe drinking water and food. So I think that's been kind of interesting to see how it's been progressing. But I will echo what Sam said, and that annoyed Trafalgar Law is the best kind of Trafalgar Law. I love his sort of like 2 days away from retirement. He's been put up with like a rookie cop kind of thing. It's like just exasperated the whole time, and I want to see more of that.
All right. Steven, what do you think?
This was a really good chapter, in my opinion. Just, I guess, briefly, just to touch on the ending, what I would say is that I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think we would all agree that if the truth that you cannot believe ends up being like, oh, well, because Oden was killed, the rest of them went into hiding, and the rest of the country just thinks that they're all dead, and that's like the entirety of the story, would be a super boring and very unsatisfying answer to that.
I'm curious though, was that Zoro or Law in that last line who says, it'll shake your world or whatever?
I don't know. It could be either, technically.
Granted,
they do talk very similarly.
Neither of them are given to hyperbole, so I guess I would believe it coming from either of them. Like,
right. Yeah,
that's not the kind of joke Zoro would make, I don't think.
Yeah, having Zoro mention that to be like, yeah, it got me too, would give some veracity to it. Like, okay, there has to be a good story behind whatever this is going to be, if Zoro weighs in like that. But yeah, I thought this was a very nice kind of close, because I think we can admit this is basically the closing of the little Okobore, Tama. I don't know, maybe we'll see more of Tama, but this kind of caps that little story of like, okay, they beat Hold'em, Speed is neutralized, Hawkins is neutralized, they met up with Law, the food was given to the starving people. It just kind of wraps it all up nicely in a bow. I thought it was very satisfying, seeing the people celebrating and all of.
It is curious to me that like all of Kaido's crew that we've seen to this point, and to the point that they admit to being so, are all kind of weak in relation to Jack and Kaido. Like they've been occupying this land. It's been too easy for them. Like, are they getting slow? Do they not train effectively when they're just occupying this country? Are they not prepared for an invasion? Like,
yeah. You very much get the sense that this is like the soft point that Luffy has come through, as far as Kaido's like territory is concerned.
Maybe Kaido's got other priorities. Like he was just up on a cloud jumping off onto the earth, a little while back.
But I guess also if you think about it, those people are so subjugated. Maybe you don't have your strongest folks patrolling starving people.
Yeah.
Right.
Which leads to the question: what are they doing?
And well, exactly, and I think Kelly bringing up that this was the little story about the food and the pollution, and that really wasn't something I think that we had been prepared for before getting to Wano. Like we had all heard about, okay, there's Kozuki Oden and there's the evil Shogun and Kaido, and we have to free them, and then we kind of we get introduced through this little story of of kind of like local suppression and, corruption of natural resources and things like that. And while that may, I guess, continue to be a story, kind of transitioning from this little chapter of Wano into some Kozuki clan information here at the end, I think, would suggest that we're probably going to get into more of the heart of the Wano story. And, I mean, aside from that, I thought Law's entrance was I handled it really well, or not his entrance, but his interaction with the Straw Hats again, because he occupies this kind of weird position in the story where he is not he's not a Straw Hat. He doesn't have like certain characteristics of Straw Hats, but he is a recurring character where we've seen him now in multiple arcs. And I think it's kind of tricky to pull off a character like that. It's sort of like in real life terms, it would be like, okay, you have your circle of friends, and then there's someone else who's sort of like a mutual acquaintance, and they hang out, and you're like, okay, I know that person, like they seemed cool that one time, and then they keep showing up, and then at some point you kind of have to ask, like, do you not have any other friends? Like, do you have your own thing going on? And that's kind of the risk that you run of having.
He's the kind of character who makes sense. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I think it's pretty clear from his flashback that he does not have any friends.
Well, yeah. Okay.
I mean, he's the kind of character who would make sense if this was a story that took place in like one town,
right?
Like rather than one that's like ocean faring.
Right. Yeah. And so like I think the way that he is played in this chapter, where Oda was really accentuating like the exasperation, like the kind of the foil nature of like, he's the one who has the plan. He's the one who's like knows what's going on here and is supposed to be putting together the plan. And the Straw Hats, obviously, like we, the readers, are the ones who are just kind of barging in blind and are like, I don't know, man, like these people need help. Let's help them. And that kind of tension, I think, being played up so well is like the right way to use him in this sense, I think. So I enjoyed that a lot.
All right. Alex, what you got?
Yeah. I really like this chapter. In particular, there's this little detail. So Luffy, as exemplified through events in Fishman Island, doesn't want to be a hero. However, I would argue that what he did in these last couple chapters is probably his most intentionally heroic move. And I wonder if it has anything to do with his name not being Luffy right now. It's Luffy Taro. Particularly the panel when he says, "I'm Luffy Taro. If anyone asks you, tell him my name." And it's not normally we're used to hearing him say, "I'm Luffy, the man who will be king of the pirates." But this is something slightly different, and it evokes a different sort of feeling to me. And I like the general idea of Luffy going to all these towns throughout Wano and doing really heroic things and getting people to know who, basically setting forth the legend of Luffy Taro kind of thing. So I don't know. I kind of hope that this is it's sort of contributing to what makes Wano feel different than any other One Piece arc to me. Is just how they're going about it. And it's a little bit of a bummer that we don't have the entire crew together, but it's also really nice to have just Luffy and Zoro kind because it sort of evokes the early days a little bit, but it's also something completely new. And yeah, that's one aspect of this chapter I really like. And of course, keeping in with the tradition of Oda's amazing background characters, in the last arc we had all the Charlottes, and in this arc we have all the Gifters, and they're great. All of them are great. Just looking through the background and trying to piece together what we can find is really fun. And I definitely love that. Tama is really awesome. I love her. She is an incredible addition to the One Piece story, and I really love her relationship with Luffy. It definitely feels like a little sister type thing, and it's cool to bring Ace into the equation from that aspect.
I feel like
you see little sister. It's almost like she's kind of like Ace's daughter. Like not really, but like the way she talks about him, it feels that way. Like she's his niece or something.
I feel like it was definite. You can kind of characterize this as like, yeah, this is like the filler kid, but it's like Oda saying, no, this is how you do it.
Yep.
And proving, just showing him how it's done, basically.
Yeah, you give him a connection to one of the most popular characters in the series and make that emotional.
Alex, it's funny when you were talking about the whole hero thing. It just reminded me of when back earlier when he's like, I don't want to be hero because I don't want to. What was it? I don't want to share meat or whatever it was, and he did. He shared the meat.
Yeah, he's sharing all the meat.
That's weird.
So, Luffy Taro,
Luffy sharing the meat.
Yeah.
He was also the hero. He was also like the hero of Dressrosa through the name Lucy.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny how since the time skip started, he's like, yeah, I don't want to be a hero, but he keeps doing these really heroic things under a different.
These other
We're
guys
gonna have a bunch of weebs debate on what the correct translation of it's like Luffy's name is.
I think that alias angle is a super interesting take on that. I always just kind of read it as like Luffy is a good person. He'll do selfless things, but like he needs the freedom to do it like impulsively. Is sort of how I always see him.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. Wherever he goes, he kind of makes his own freedom. Like Law even brings up here that like, well, this is rebellion against Wano, like right off the bat, and Luffy doesn't seem to give a shit because that's just how he is.
Yeah, like there's going to be a consequence of him doing this, but it's like that just means like stronger enemies are going to fight him and he's going to beat those guys.
Yes. So I mentioned the why it's so important to have that scene of the lady almost killing her baby, just because it's I think it makes Luffy's move that much more heroic. Like all these lives. Think about all the lives that he just saved by doing this one deed. It's pretty remarkable. As far as the cliffhanger goes, I'm with I agree with what has been said already. And of course it got me to put my tinfoil hat on a little bit and remembered what I think Kinemon in Punk Hazard used some sort of Tanuki type magic, like with a leaf, right, to make new clothes for everybody. What if all of these people are really dead, but the Oden and Momonosuke and Kinemon, all of them, or not Oden, but all of the Wano characters that we've seen prior to this arc are all Tanuki, who are like Kozuki pets or something, and they're trying to avenge their masters.
I'm so down with that.
What if he's right? But then that would mean Momonosuke is a Tanuki that could turn into a dragon, but also a person,
and also hear the voice of all things. Yeah, it doesn't really make too much sense, but that was like the first thing I thought of. I was like, oh man, it's like a dumb thing. I think it'd be kind of funny, but yeah, more than likely they fake their deaths or whatever. If they're ghosts, I think that'd be pretty rad.
Yeah, Steve, what do you got?
Everyone kind of said it best. I mean, Tama is the best. Tama, number one. She's awesome. I think everyone wants her as a little sister or daughter, etc. The Kazuki stuff, the Tanuki thing that Alex has brought up is interesting. It might be a little too much, but I mean, I don't want to just be, oh yeah, we faked our deaths. I mean,
That wouldn't be
might
shocking to
just be
Zoro.
where it's going. No.
Yeah.
But like it's shocking at first, like, oh, they're dead. Like, no, we had to fake our deaths so that we could escape. But then they found out we're alive. Now we're in trouble. But I don't think there's been any other hints really dropped at what it could possibly be. Other than that, I like to think this chapter is the ending of Act 1 or the prologue to Wano.
Yeah, and I think that's what I said a couple of weeks ago, where like this meeting between like Hawkins and Law was going to be the beginning of the actual arc, or whatever the crisis begins, and that's kind of what happened.
But other than that, I don't know. Everyone else has kind of said it best. But it was fun. I'm kind of really excited for the next chapter. I want to see where the story goes from here.
Right on. Like Steve, I don't have too many other things that I wanted to say, but I just love that idea of Luffy of being like reassuring Tama by saying like, this isn't supposed to be special. You're not supposed to be. I don't know. It's a very reassuring message, and I appreciate that Luffy and Ace were both said that, because they can recognize what a terrible situation this is, and I really appreciate that. I love the gags in this chapter. Kaido's men, as I say every week, are goofy and weird and kind of stupid, and they can't do anything right. like the image of Holden being knocked out while his lion flail is flailing his paws, and getting trapped under a giant thing of water, and getting ridden like a horse, even though she's only a centaur. Yeah, they're so goofy. I just there's gags but it's gonna have to get serious at some point. And I feel like whatever this secret is, whatever this thing at the top of the hill is, I guess maybe that's where the point where the arc will start to get more serious. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, but I feel like that's what's gonna happen, because I'm really, really enjoying all of these gags. But yeah, other than that, I think you guys pretty much said it all. Any final thoughts for anyone? All right, let's move on to the anime recap.
Everyone's too afraid to just answer for everyone else and just say no.
No. This is the anime recap for episode 854, The Threat of the Mole, Luffy's Silent Fight. I'm your host Sam, and today with me once again, we have our good friend Ed.
Hi. I always get. I'll never skip an episode. I don't think, if I made it through this one.
You don't have a lot to say?
No.
I feel like I do. I liked it more than last week's a lot. But
I don't know. Maybe I was in a bad mood today, but I just did not. I was getting annoyed by this episode. How little material can we cover?
The title card begins at 4 minutes and 14 seconds. So we get a little montage of everybody on the Sunny breaking the mirrors so that the Charlotte family can't start slinging flaming arrows in as usual. I like the song choices this week. I'm happy they're going for the classics, like Three Towers, and later Overtaken shows up.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not in love with the One Piece soundtrack at the moment. I've been rewatching a lot of old DBZ, and I'm coming to the conclusion that Japanese score is the best score of all time. It's so good. And anyway, I'm not going to talk about DBZ on a One Piece anime recap. I kind of want to.
There's a shot where Brûlé looks unnaturally long and skinny. Her head just looks huge compared to her body. So Luffy is running off. He's got a shard of mirror in his hand so he can keep talking to his crew. He's tossing his red jacket away, so now he's down to his black undershirt. So Chopper is telling Luffy what we saw last week about the tidal wave, and they spend a good minute just showing us the tidal wave again, which was frustrating.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, that was cool animation last week, but it's just...
it's the kind of thing you're supposed to see in the recap,
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I feel it takes the first half of this episode, we get hardly anything, I wasn't digging it.
So the plan is for once Luffy's done with his fight, he has to look for a mirror that will lead to Cacao Island, which is where Sanji and Pudding are right now. And then in mid-convo, Luffy gets nabbed by some mochi that has sprung up from the ground and is holding him down. And Luffy's trying to communicate with his crew, but Katakuri is walking over. And I love the pacing on this kick where
yeah, that was good.
The kick swings, and then you just see on the other end, you see the Sunny, and you see the mirror shard in their hand just shatter because Katakuri kicked him, and then we come back and it's like this really cool looking kick that's happening in slow motion. But this is also where
Luffy holds his lips. I thought that was pretty cool.
I did not visually understand that in the manga, and I don't think the anime makes it more clear. He's hiding a piece of mirror in his mouth, right?
I just thought he was holding his mouth so he wouldn't make any noise, so they wouldn't think that anything was wrong.
Oh,
yeah.
See, okay.
Like he puts on a big face and he's like all happy about it, which I mean that was kind of a cool scene where he's like, yeah, I'm hopeful I'm gonna get this. They don't know what's happened to him. They just think that the shard is broken. But yeah, they're supposed to be like hopeful about Luffy and not that he's getting his ass kicked right now.
Yeah, I didn't make that connection. I thought like he wanted to make sure he had a piece of mirror, so he hid it like in his mouth and like wanted to make sure it didn't like open and fall out or something.
That might be right. I'm not sure, but I feel like he also was trying not to make any noise so his crew wouldn't worry about him.
So Katakuri follows up with a giant kick, like a giant axe kick.
It's funny because he's like a Ninetales with his big mochi.
Yeah. So then there's this sequence of Luffy like crawling on the ground and like barely trying to dodge Katakuri's kicks as they're all just kind of coming in a flutter. This is where Overtaking is playing, where he's like he's putting on the brave face, the goofy face, so he can tell his crew, okay guys, don't worry about me. In fact, get it done quickly because I'll probably get bored waiting. That
was kind of a cool moment, but
he's clearly losing his fight, and you can tell Jinbei isn't buying it.
Yeah, he's really the only skeptical one. He's not even the oldest one on the crew.
So this is when we slowly begin to get introduced to Katakuri's trident named Mole. And he's Luffy hasn't really said anything yet, but Katakuri's already seeing into the future. It's like, oh, I'm not gonna die here, huh? That's what you think? And then Luffy's like, I'm not gonna die here.
Well, he's like, those are pretty lame last words. I think he says at one point.
Yeah.
It's very Joseph Joestar.
So we come to a scene on the shore of Whole Cake Island where Montdor and Count Niwatori are having a chat. Montdor makes a cute he draws like a little sculpture of Big Mom and the candy slug in his book, and it becomes like a little chess piece that I think he's planning on like using these like pieces to like strategize and stuff. He's very confident. He's like, believe in your family, Niwatori.
Hey, we got the Germa's still fighting.
Yeah, Germa, they're still doing the same thing. I thought it was interesting. So this long-sleeved gentleman, Charlotte Basquart.
I don't remember his name.
He pulls down like the covering on his face, and he's got like a scary monster mouth, and he's breathing fire. So they're kind of leaning into that motif of like Charlotte's hiding their real appearance. Although it's a little too similar to you know who.
Well, I mean, there's a reason he's been covering his mouth the whole time. I don't think it's a mystery that Katakuri is hiding something under there for people who are only watching the anime and don't know what. So, I don't know. I could have done without that scene.
Yeah. So we come back to the mirror world, and Brule she's like poking her head out of one of the mirrors, and she's bragging about Katakuri. Like, oh, Katakuri, he's never lost a fight. He's never even laid down on his back. Like, isn't that cool, huh?
These are just Chuck Norris facts. She's doing, and it feels It feels funnier, I think, in the anime. I like Brule, I guess, in this episode. Brule was the thing I liked. That she also in Katakuri is like, shut up. Don't talk about me.
Well, you get the visual of the baby standing up, like, oh, even when he was born, he stood right up. Came out of the womb on his feet.
Right.
So Luffy tries to shut her up by punching her, but Katakuri catches him, and this is the first time you really see Katakuri like almost losing his cool.
Yeah.
Where he's like, "Don't touch my little sister," and he's chucking Luffy's arm off the. Like, he looks really cool, Katakuri, when he's just getting a little legit angry. And so he's now Katakuri is using his trident. He's spinning it rapidly, so it stabs like a super clean hole in the wall behind Luffy.
Mm-hmm.
We have a little scene of Big Mom. So the Charlottes, they're kind of iffy on what the deal with the Straw Hats are. They thought they were assumed that they sunk the ship, but now it's starting to look like maybe the Straw Hats are out there. But Big Mom doesn't really care. She's being distracted by a delicious-looking island called Nuts Island, our favorite. That's Nuts Island.
They use that line that way too, which is pretty good. But I don't know. This whole Katakuri fight in this episode, it just feels like, yeah, like it gets
a lot of the same thing.
It also gets extended in the anime, and not necessarily that like this was drawn out, but like I think Oda overall wrote this where like they're not. It doesn't really feel like they're fighting seriously until later on, and not like it still feels even when they're just testing each other out, but it feels like they've been doing that for a while now. Yeah, and like that's the problem with the story than with the anime, really.
Yeah, it's been long enough that you want to see like a more significant like shift in the power dynamic,
or at least they start doing like cool moves, or Luffy starts landing on him, or he like gets him flustered or something. He's been too cool and for too long, and like my interest is like I know it's gonna go back up once plot starts twisting, but right now I'm just kind of bored.
So this final sequence is just we get a lot of Katakuri beating on Luffy with his trident. I think it looks pretty good. I think, and then Luffy's got his Thor elephant gun, and the episode ends with Katakuri getting ready for another jab.
I hate to beat the Dragon Ball Z drum again, but I've been watching. I'm up to like episode 25 now. So like I've just watched in succession Yamcha die, Chaozu die, and Tien die in 3 straight episodes. Granted, that follows like 10 straight episodes of filler. And but like getting that even in the shonen anime, getting that back to back to back like that, it's just at the beginning of like a battle, it just feels so weird having watched One Piece for so long, or that doesn't really happen in the anime anymore.
Yeah,
I mean it's also the story. It's also the story that Oda's telling, and that's not that story. So, but it was so jarring. Like it doesn't feel like doesn't feel similar to One Piece at all.
Do you have any other general thoughts beyond
Dragon Ball Z?
Beyond your clear, like not super invested right now.
I'm on like episode 25 of Gintama too.
Cool.
I've decided what I'm doing with the next year of my life. Anyway, I don't know. What do you think?
I liked it. I thought, especially compared to last week's, where just the moment to moment kind of pacing and energy is a lot better this time around. Like just the little things, like the kicking and the music choices and there was a lot that. Oh, and I love the legend of Katakuri. I love his ridiculous backstory. But I do agree that I think that this is the point where you want to feel like something is changing in the fight, and it's not there. And I think to what you were saying about how Katakuri just doesn't really feel like he's trying. It's kind of a compound problem where like Katakuri isn't really trying yet at this point in the story.
I mean,
but also
he's
Luffy,
clearly being serious. Like it seems like he's being serious. He's not a frivolous person.
Well, but you get the sense that if Katakuri really wanted Luffy dead right this second, he could have done it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he could have emptied the arsenal for it, but he doesn't. He's sort of fending it off, and also going with these like fencing attacks, kind of. attacking from a distance. He's not really. It's not a down and dirty fight really yet. Luffy's getting mostly just beat up.
Yeah, and Luffy hasn't gone all out yet because he's still saving his his Gear 4s and all that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I think there are definitely parts in this fight where I think they drag the wrong parts out too long.
And these were already parts that were problematic, I thought, back then.
Yeah, I agree. But I enjoyed it. I had a good time.
And not problematic, you know what I mean, in pacing.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it for the anime recap this week. You want to move on to Piece Together?
Sure thing.
Okay. This is the Piece Together segment where we take your questions, your comments, your theories, and give you the answers that, if not the ones you're looking for, we definitely give you answers. So, first we start off this week with Dispiece. And Sam is going to give us the Dispiece this week.
Okay, so our first piece of Dispiece comes from Straw Hat Pirate 9, who says, I freaking love this chapter so much. This whole relationship Oda has built between Luffy and Tama is so beautiful. Tama is officially Luffy's little sister to me from here on after. I always thought the monkey family needed a girl. Haha. Excited to see just what the heck those gravestones are about, and of course to see Luffy fulfill his promise to Tama. It's going to be good feeling when we get there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Our next Dispiece is from this person, Herper Burler. that's what they're going by now. Like I did not botch Herper Burler. Yeah, that's what they're going by now.
That's good.
Yeah, that's an episode title.
Dispiece. Tama as future captain of the Beast Pirates and next member of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet after they beat Kaido. Also, if she tries to tame Hold'em, they're asking the same question. Would she have to feed both Kamijiro and Hold'em, or is only Kamijiro tameable because he has his own mouth and has a separate consciousness from Hold'em?
That actually seems right to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, yeah, because the Centaur, she only has one mouth. Speed only has the one. Yeah, that could be.
Yeah. Our next question comes from OG San. Dispiece. Hey OPP, 2 years ago, I asked on your Reddit page whether you thought there was a chance that Momo, Kinemon, and Kanjuro had been suspended in time, only because Momo talked about how Cat Viper and Dogstorm used to be such good friends. A few weeks ago, Hold'em said that the Kozukis tried to destroy Wano 20 years ago, so is it safe to assume that Oden was killed 20 years ago after this failed attempt, and that my theory, link below, was right?
So, how old is Momonosuke?
Does not look 20.
No, yeah, exactly.
They're implying that Momonosuke has been frozen in time and has been around for that long.
Right, but there's a long way from where we find them eventually on Dressrosa. Not Dressrosa, Punk Hazard.
Punk Hazard.
Yeah. It's interesting see how they would get there from what he's proposing.
Well, I guess that's stuff that kind of needs to be answered by this mystery that has been raised.
Yeah, really. Yeah. All right, was that the last Dispiece, Tim?
No, we have one more.
All right.
From Grim Pyro, Dispiece. Fun chapter this week. So now we know that Otama pinches Kibidango out of her cheeks to tame animals. Does that mean it's a reference to the old Japanese tale of Momotaro? Also, seeing as most devil fruit names are related to sound, what do you think the name of this one will be? Are there sounds related to Dango? Is there a Dango thing in Momotaro?
Yeah. The Kibidango, the millet dumplings, are what Momotaro uses to tame the pheasant, the dog, and the monkey, which are the also in One Piece that corresponds to the three admirals. And those are like the followers that Momotaro takes on his way to defeating the Oni on the island of ogres, the Onigashima. So yeah, that's definitely part of, or it's an element of that fairy tale that Oda is using. Obviously, with Luffy being Luffy Taro and Tama having the power of the dumplings, it's kind of split up and rearranged in a sense. But
and there's at this point there's basically three, there's almost three versions of the Momotaro metaphor that you can pull through, between the admirals, between between the characters who are like dogs and phoenixes and all that are adjacent to the story,
right?
And to the yokai we've been seeing.
Yeah, I think that what we're gonna see, while it's tempting to try to map everything out one to one, I think it's more likely. It's sort of so if you were to do this in a Western setting, it would be okay, you're going to take little bits and pieces from all the different Grimm's fairy tales and kind of mix them up into one crazy thing so that you see, you're oh, that's the slipper from Cinderella, and oh, that's the Sleeping Beauty thing. And it's not going to be one cohesive, oh, he's just retelling blah, blah, blah.
You're saying that the story of Wano is also the story of Wreck-It Ralph 2. Ralph breaks the internet.
Could be, the Japanese release. That's what it'll be. But yeah, that's what I'm saying is so all these weird little bits of folklore and stuff that he is throwing in these references. I imagine that will kind of continue to be sort of a hodgepodge of just here's this thing, here's this story, and turning them into his own arc. So I don't know how useful it will be to try to plot it all out based on the actual story of Momotaro, for example.
Right. I just think I think it's interesting that he's given he has given himself many different directions to recreate the same story. And the audience isn't really they can't piece it together like a math equation because it could be any of those things.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So is that the last disc piece? Alex, do you have some emails for us?
Yes, we have quite a few emails this week. This first email comes to us from Jacob, who says, "Hello, One Piece Podcast. I was listening to your read-through on the Paramount War Part 2, and I noticed something interesting that Zach and Ed pointed out. The live feed video being recorded in Marineford was cut off from the outside world just after showing all the pacifistas shooting things up. It then showed all the supernovas reacting to the war that was going on, including Julie Bonnie, who was crying and telling her crew to leave her alone. I totally forgot this happened, but I'm pretty sure that this is foreshadowing to the weird Kuma-Bonnie relationship that we learn more about in the Reverie. Just kind of cool to see Oda plan and foreshadow things from so long ago in easy to miss panel."
These kinds of emails are my favorite emails because I'd forgotten about that. Honestly, it's a little moment. I'd notice it if I went back and read it, but that's what I like about our listeners.
Yeah, that particular moment where every time we saw Bonnie since then, I was just what is her deal? What is she talking about? And I thought she had a relationship with Ace or something. But yeah, that little light being shed during the Reverie was definitely neat. Daniel Signs, forgive the spelling or pronunciation, says, "Hi guys, first of all, congratulations on the podcast. It's become part of my weekly routine. You're welcome.
Thank you.
I've been rereading the One Piece manga and a couple of questions came up. Maybe you can help me figuring them out. First question, are there plans of making a novelization of One Piece? I think it may become a great adventure piece of literature and may appeal to people that don't read comics/manga. There's certainly the Ace novels, and who knows? It might be collected into somebody might transcribe it or something once it's done into a the opposite of a light novel. I guess would be a heavy novel,
a very heavy novel.
Yeah. And this is an interesting question that I actually have thought about before. If during the time skip Brook was on a world tour, then why didn't he visit Laboon? So in my experience with quote unquote world tours on this spaceship we call Earth, world tours don't necessarily signify that they're going to travel all around the world, just intercontinental. So it's very possible that Brook only visited a certain subset of islands over those last 2 years.
I always got the impression that Brook really respects the adventure. Okay, that's the thing that will happen after Luffy becomes Pirate King.
I think that too, and also the revelation that okay, he knows Laboon, and then he finds out that Luffy and the Straw Hats, at least the ones who were there on the adventure at that point, also met Laboon, and I think not to dispel the mystery or to put it in terms that would kind of romanticize it, it would be like, well, Brook wouldn't do that on his own because he would want it to, he would want to come whole with the Straw Hats and be like, look, we all came back for you, not just Luffy, but here I am, it's me, Brook, and so on and so forth.
Not to mention that if he showed up, don't you think that Whale would want to go with him?
Oh yeah.
I mean, what the hell are you going to do with him?
Yeah.
That's true.
He's like, hey, I'm here. Bye again.
Yeah.
It's me. It's your dad figure.
Now I'm a skeleton.
Again.
Don't worry.
Remember
I'll
those
be
abandonment
back.
issues?
I promise.
And then Laboon goes and turns around and cries to Uncle, what's his name?
Crocus.
Uncle Crocus, yeah. Why's my dad got to be like that?
You don't want me.
Oh, Uncle Crocus sounds like a really bad butt rock band.
Now touring with Kid Rock, Uncle Crocus.
Sit down, Brooke. All right. This next question comes to us from Orietta, who says, "Hey guys, I know you've done bets on when certain arcs would end in the manga, but have you made any bets on what chapter the manga itself would end?"
Absolutely not.
I'm gonna throw out a number and say 1200, since Oda loves to do big events on hundreds. I would say way past 1200 personally.
1200 is my guess. 120
1200?
volumes is my guess.
Wow.
1200, because we're in the mid 900s at this point, right? Like,
Yeah, so like 300 more chapters.
I don't know.
Yeah, somewhere around there, somewhere between 1200 and 1350, let's say, something like that.
Yeah.
I think we're in the beginning of the end.
Well, we definitely. Well, I think we
Yeah.
have been.
Yeah.
Then figure Dressrosa also took 100 volumes, so
Yeah.
It was 10 and a half volumes.
I mean, I'm sorry, 100 chapters. It seemed like 100 volumes though.
Stay
Michael
tuned
Saunders-
for the One Piece read through.
That's right. You'll love it. Michael Saunders says, "Hey guys, I had a tinfoil hat theory that I
All
know
right.
is wrong, but I figured I'd ask anyway. Do you think Jaguar D. Saul is still alive? I mean, Chopper unfroze Luffy and Robin. I'm sure the government could do that as well. Maybe turned him into a cyborg like Kuma. I know this is nuts, but I had the thought while rewatching Enies Lobby. Anyway, have fun with it."
What does that serve the story?
Yeah. I wouldn't like that.
Big giant robot cyborg. Yeah, I don't think I'd like that either. It would sort of diminish the impact of Robin's flashback.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, as far as we've come to understand, when we see people die in a flashback, they pretty much stay dead, and we pretty much saw a body there. And I think they, having reread Water 7 pretty recently, they sort of have like a time limit on how quick they have to unfreeze their comrades before it's too late. So I don't know about that. But thanks for the question. Eric Tripp says, "Hey OPP, when the One Piece anime got up to Punk Hazard, we learned that Kenyu Horiuchi would be the voice actor for Kinemon. He is also the Japanese dub voice for Jerry Seinfeld."
Really?
Forgot about that.
Yeah, I feel like this is a question we should have saved for Zach, but it says, "So what episode of Seinfeld would you like to see acted out with Kinemon, Kanjuro, Raizo, and Okiku as Jerry, George, Kramer, and Elaine? And who would play who? Between Kanjuro and Raizo, I'm not sure who would play George and who is Kramer. I assume since Okiku is the only female samurai we've seen so far, she would be Elaine, but that can change.
Raizo is clearly George. His weird tiny man, but
Short.
also
Yeah,
yeah, short and awkward.
And Kanjuro is definitely Kramer, I would say.
for sure.
Yeah, he's much wackier than Kinemon is, even if Kinemon is kind of a perv.
Yeah.
But
But with Conjuro, instead of just like coming through the door uninvited, he just comes through the door on a crappily drawn sparrow. Whoa, whoa.
Raizo even has the complaints about not being popular with the lady ninjas.
Oh my god.
There you go.
That's perfect.
Oh God, book this. I want this spin-off.
Kanjuro would be like, "Hey, have you
Who's Newman?
Oh, Newman. Newman would be that guy's like Kaido.
Oh, Urashima or something.
Oh my god, yes. Hello, Urashima. Domo Urashima.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Hey,
I forgot who a recent character was for a moment.
hey, have you met my friend Bob Sacamano Dono? All right.
At least we have Alex on for this one.
Yeah. So our last email is actually a question for Sam. Martin says, a couple of weeks ago, Sam expressed a different opinion on the infamous Tashigi Zoro moment in the Punk Hazard arc.
Oh, I think Brian said that.
Oh, well.
Well, let's continue with the question.
Well,
go on with the question.
Brian,
I'm curious.
Well,
pretend that you're Brian, Sam.
Okay. Yeah, could he explain his reasoning? I'm curious on his insight. Sam, what's your opinion on the Tashigi Zoro moment?
Well, that's a bad decision on my part.
I don't know. I feel like people sometimes. I don't know. I don't know how to wade into those waters.
All right. Well, we'll just table that and wait till Brian's on the show. Because if that is indeed a question actually for Brian, then, well, that's the question for Brian.
Tweet it at him. He might answer it.
Yeah. Tweet at Brian. He's always down to.
I'm sure he'd love to answer some non-hostile questions on Twitter for once.
That's true. He's at Dirk King Zoro. So, Martin, if you want to just tweet at him there, and we'll have some popcorn on the ready.
So, Alex, that was our last email?
That was our last email.
All right, let's get to some Reddit there, Steven.
Okay, we'll start off with Books is Cool, who says, interested to see how much Brooke knows about Rox, since he got weird into Rox, the character / crew, whatever that is. Not the concept. I think everybody knows what rocks are. Since he got weird and tense in some reaction shots during Whole Cake Island. P.S. Also, did anyone notice the gifter with the implied snake penis? This can't be my imagination. Oh, we noticed.
Oh, yes.
Now we have to use that title.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of the first guess that a lot of people had, since we didn't really get any closure on what Brooke was going on about during Whole Cake Island, and having a reference to something from the past that sort of lines up, I guess. Although why Brooke would be acting that way during Whole Cake Island, and how that ties in with what the Marines were talking about, that is still kind of unknown. So it could be. Okayest Gamer asks, do you believe that Law will at some point sacrifice himself to save Luffy and subsequently grant him immortal life?
God, would Luffy want that?
Yeah, I can only see that as part of sort of like the Impel Down thing, where it's like, okay, Luffy's literally going to die if we don't do something right now.
I mean, I guess part of the deal of wanting that is being a bad guy. Like,
yeah.
Do any good guys want to be immortal? Does anyone actually want that? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's true. I don't. Yeah, I have a hard time seeing how that would be a satisfying development. Although it's certainly possible that Law could do it at some point, but I think now that we've actually gotten his main story out of the way, it seems like that opportunity maybe has passed by. I have a hard time seeing Law doing something that severe with his own life. Real Pool has a question. How invested are you guys in the actual revelation of One Piece? I believe that no matter how hard Oda tries, it's almost impossible for him to match the expectations of the fan base, let alone surpass it. I guess my question is that would you be too disappointed if the ending didn't match your expectations? One Piece has been a destination series where every storyline is leading us towards a somewhat fixed destination / goal. And in my experience, almost all the other destination stories that I can remember have all been about the journey rather than the final destination. The destination just makes the characters realize that the journey was way more important and rewarding than the goal they set out to achieve. It is a curse of a long-running series that the final arc that wraps everything up is often haphazard because author wants to do too much and incorporate a lot of storylines and characters while giving most of the main characters a satisfactory closure. If Oda tries to go that route, then things can inadvertently go off rails. I am personally trying to enjoy the One Piece in the present as much as possible while giving Oda complete freedom to surprise me. If we continue investing way too much time with long-term and endgame theories, we might just ruin the series for ourselves because Oda might not be able to surpass the collective effort of the theorists out there.
You basically just said everything I was going to say.
I mean, I would have said that I could never give up on one. I could never lose those fond memories of One Piece of all the time I spent discussing it. But I've talked about how I feel about Lost and how I haven't revisited it since the day it ended. I don't think it can be that. I don't think One Piece. Oda's a much better writer than that. But it is possible. I think it is going to be satisfying, though. I think there's going to be emotional catharsis at the end of it. And I'm gonna like where it ends.
Yeah, it sounds like he's been confident in whatever the ending is for a while. And I want to see whatever he's confident in. That's usually got some pretty good results. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Was there anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I'm surprised that, like, for like all the million theories you hear, I feel like I don't hear theories about what the One Piece itself is very often. Like, I think that's the one thing everyone's kind of pretty relaxed about. Like, because worst case scenario, it's like something symbolic, which would still feel pretty appropriate.
I don't remember where it was. I think it was in an SBS, but Oda has said that it is something physical, right? Like it's treasure.
Yeah. Or it's like it will be a reward for the adventure.
It's not
on some level.
It's not like the hunt for Red October, the friends we made along the way.
I if I could just rant a little bit, anytime I see some comment where someone says they still haven't found the treasure, that jerk ain't a One Piece fan, because any One Piece fan knows that that's not why we're invested in this series.
Exactly.
To find out what the treasure is. That's not the appeal of One Piece. So I don't know. I don't want to say something as dumb as, I don't care what the One Piece is. Like, yeah, I'm definitely invested, but I'm in this for the journey and the characters and the crazy world building and all, like, the awesome things I've given One Piece praise for before. I don't think I'm good. And with Oda already saying it's not friendship or that crap, so I'm good. I'm not worried.
All good answers. I would say that we were just talking about like the when will One Piece end, roughly speaking, and we all kind of agreed that we're sort of in the beginning stages of the end, or that he's building up to something. And I think getting to this point, and especially I think since reaching the Reverie and starting up with Wano, and not really having like a clear roadmap for after that point, which is kind of different from how it's been over the last couple arcs, is like it's really kind of hit home with me. Like, okay, yeah, we are kind of, he's kind of like narrowing down the possibilities for future developments, and very broadly sort of funneling us toward the ending, and being cognizant of that and like having that in mind, I think has made me more determined to enjoy the roses while we're walking past them. And that's why like I have loved like this little prologue to Wano, and just these kind of silly little adventures and fun events that we're watching, rather than like being desperate to get to all of the answers and to see like the biggest, baddest stuff in Wano, because it's like, yeah, well, this is like all the fun and like the entertaining and comedic interactions and stuff. Like, there's only so many of those, and once you know the answer, then that's it. You know the answer, and it's always going to be that way. But all of it's the little things along the way that make it truly memorable, I think, and that you look back on with fondness.
Yeah.
And
that first time you read any of that content, and granted, you go back and you always find something new. But that first time you read any of that, and it's funny, like I probably am one of the few people that, well, maybe not one of the few, but I never think about the end. Don't want to think about it. I know it's going to come, but I've been too invested for too many years to think about the possibility of that time frame where there's no new chapters coming. So for me, it's just like, that's the farthest thing from my mind ever, is to think about the end.
And actually, I've been thinking about this, that like all of my best One Piece memories are like, the majority of my great One Piece memories are like, they're already made. They're in stuff that I've already read and things that I've discussed with people. But I was looking to get the most out of what we have left.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I'm like openly admitting this, but I'm less and less inclined to think about the ending to One Piece anymore, because it's just making me sadder.
Yep.
Like I'm actually excited for it to one day end. Like I'm excited to look at it in retrospect, just because I think that I don't know, just like I'm feeling more and more tired by the like week to week fan experience, you know, of just like every little thing is just like, oh, well, this has to mean this or else it won't balance out this thing, or gotta, you know, and like I don't know, I just like I kind of am excited to not have that part of the experience.
To be able to look back on it and say, like, this is the full span. This is
I want
the entirety of it.
I want to look back at it the way I look back at like Dragon Ball, you know, which is like if the Toriyama's version of that manga were running right now, like it would almost be unbearable to talk with other people. And with the ending of Whole Cake Island, like I am setting my expectations that there are going to be a lot of mysteries that just I would rather mysteries go unanswered than be answered badly.
That's
I think a lot of people. I think you learned the hard way with Metal Gear Solid, where you keep asking, no, but what does this mean? No, this never got answered. And it's like, all right, you want answers? All right, I'm going to make a game where it's just every single question you have is answered. And and you're going to be so unsatisfied because, hell, sometimes your imagination and the discussion you have with your peers or fellow fans on what this could possibly mean is more satisfying than me just telling you. Art. Sorry, I'm throwing my arms up.
I'm excited for One Piece to end, simply because the end game part of a manga is generally really exciting for me. In particular, I think back to when I kind of figured out that Fullmetal Alchemist was about to end.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Yeah,
like when they start to set up for like the final act, and it's like that. I guess the last like 30 chapters or so, or something like that. I don't know. There was still like, I think there was still like half a year left, or
I don't know, from like the point where they try and assassinate the Fuhrer, and he kind of survives.
Yeah, like when you begin to piece together, oh, this is they're setting up for the final, for the final curtain.
And this reminds me, people should go back and listen to our Full Metal podcast. That was good.
Yeah.
Full Metal podcast.
It's just an exciting thing because everything sort of comes to a head, and you're on the edge of your seat the whole time. And with One Piece, I always kind of feel like I'm on the edge of my seat. But when it comes to One Piece's ending, I think that, like, I don't know, I'm ready to be swept off my feet the way that Marineford did for me when I was reading it. It was just exciting. Just week after week, it was just like everything from the first part of One Piece is just sort of like, I don't know, being thrown at you, and all these characters that we've seen and characters that we don't really know yet, but they're making appearances and strutting their stuff. I'm like, imagine a series like One Piece and getting to the end and then having all of those characters that we've come across in one gigantic event. Like, I don't know. It's an exciting thing to think about. And when One Piece is over, that's even better, because then I can lend it to people and be like, hey, this was great. You can read all of it now.
Yeah. Good discussion. Let's see. LA Pulu 7. I'm sorry. They have a question for Zach about the One Piece connection. But
you picked the wrong week.
Yeah, sadly, Zach had some unscheduled, interruption that kicked him out of our recording time, so he was not able to be on. But ask again another week, or send an email or something, and I'm sure he'll be back next week probably. Some Pirate 63 says, if you were in the One Piece world, which character would you ideally become, and which character would you realistically become? For example, I'd love to be Jinbei, but I'd most likely be Gaimon.
God, I'd most like to be Jinbei, realistically. But yeah, I don't even know who I would be. I just feel like, I don't know, I'd probably be some villager, you know?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I'd like to be Robin. I'd most likely be random citizen number 4.
Yeah, I'd be someone. I'd be running from the boat that gets beached in Alabasta. That's probably.
Yeah.
Anyway, anyone have a?
I'd probably be eaten or something. I don't know. I would just take. I would take just about like any protagonist in One Piece, because they're all pretty. A lot of people have devil fruit abilities and stuff, and I mean, hell, like I would be Inazuma in a heartbeat. Are you kidding me?
Dude. With the scissor powers, that'd be awesome.
Mm.
That's right. And look like a big old creamsicle.
True.
All right. Let's see. 1234 NTAC has some interesting background information based off of the Fishman Island read-through episode that we did put up last week. Nobody seems to know what the cloth the royals wear is. It is called a hagoromo, or literally a feather cloth. It allows the tenyo, which is sort of like a Japanese angel/fairy, to fly while they wear it. The fisherman royalty and the dancers at the end of the arc are all wearing it, because in most artistic depictions of the Urashima Taro folktale, Queen Otohime and her servants are wearing the hagoromo. So there we go. That's a valuable background. Thank you very much for that. Let's see. Superior Dude says, what characters do you associate with the podcast more than the series? I mean that whenever you see them, you think of a moment or joke from the podcast first before what they've done in One Piece. For me, it's oddly enough Jack. You guys made a joke that he would be voiced by Ray Romano, and I still imagine his voice as that.
Oh.
So for me, it's gotten to the point where, because we spent so much time with it, Just Rosa, that is, that Dellinger always makes me think of Steve.
Yeah.
Not
Paul Lynde.
not just Paul Lynde, because I don't know, but mostly Steve, because Steve's got this really crazy, I'm not gonna say obsession with Dellinger. But.
Crazy obsession. Get out of here.
And by crazy, I mean scale, not
no one cares about Dellinger as much
more
as
than
I
you
do, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, I think anything that Gloop Glorp. Like every time I think of what's his face,
Treble.
Treble. Yeah, I just think of how much we laughed during coming up with the name of that episode.
Saying that still makes me laugh.
Gloop Glorp. Gloop Glorp, was it? It doesn't matter. What matters is
tops the list.
Yes,
Strawberry. He makes it.
Yeah, Strawberry makes me think of Zach. I I think that, like, oddly enough, a lot of stuff in Dressrosa just makes me think of stuff that we did on the podcast, because it was so much of our podcast's tenure, but also I feel like we had a lot of fun.
Some weeks that's just how we had to keep ourselves entertained.
Yeah, it's sort of like when you're stuck in a building with no power for like weeks on end. Kind of like that, but you have your friends that you made along the way.
Birdcage.
Go ahead, Steve.
I'm sorry. No, I was just thinking out loud. Go ahead, Steven.
This is a very random thing, and it's not something that like completely overrides my my image of the character. But so back in can't remember if it was during Zoe or like very early Whole Cake Island. There was an episode where we had one of our freelance writers, our editorial writers, Kyle, and he was doing a page where he was the voice of Peckham's, and he gave him this like sort of like a cowardly lion, like sort of voice, and like it just keeps sticking in my head. I don't even associate it like directly with it, but that voice always pops into my head. Like at least half the time when I would like write dialogue for Peckham. So I guess I would say that was kind of a weird like earworm that just kind of took over my mind.
I mean, Anaru is a big part of this podcast's history.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
And since he hasn't been in the stories at Skypiea, I feel like he's been on our show more than One Piece.
That's probably true. I think I was watching the Skypiea special where I was rereading Skypiea. I was doing both of those pretty recently, but the phrase "banana-me" kind of still stuck with me. And I know that's more of a One Piece dub thing more than a podcast thing, but we loved it on the podcast, so I feel like I associate that more with the podcast than
It's
the
more like a
actual dub.
season 1 or season 2 interview with Tatum where he revealed that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one.
I think that was when the manga was on that month break.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the episode was called Banana-me.
Yes.
Man, I'm trying to. I think a lot of it was like Dressrosa characters because we just had to find like there were so many characters and we just had to like find ways to make them distinct audibly, not necessarily visually. Caesar Clown, yeah.
Yeah, Caesar. Well, Caesar always makes me think Casey now.
Yeah.
Like I have such an association with Casey and Caesar that like I can't. I think it's impossible to erase at this point.
Mm-hmm. I will say this: half the time now when I'm reading the manga and Beige is in it, I can't help but think I can't hear. I cannot hear. I cannot not hear. I think I just triple negative that. I always hear Fat Tony now, and it's because of Alex.
Yeah, I was thinking about Fat Tony the other day, and I was also thinking about Beige like simultaneously. I can't have one pop into my head without the other popping into my head.
Yeah. All right. Well, we had some good discussions, so I'm going to pick a few short ones here from Reddit. Let's see. Black Northwind says, regarding this chapter, do you think that this Shutenmaru person is also one of the ghosts on Wano? Also, I think that the graves are fake to trick the Shogun into thinking that Kozuki family is dead. P.S. Jill last week was right about Hawking noticing Law's tattoos. Yeah, she called that. I don't know about the Shutenmaru because that was just kind of like a throwaway reference, and we didn't even really touch on it, I think, in the manga recap. But yeah, that's right. The what was it? The Atamayama Thieves Brigade or whatever it was called. That's it slipped my mind that I did not mention that, but that was a another what's it called? Rakugo reference about a guy who like has a cherry seed falls on his head or something like that, a cherry pit, and a cherry tree grows on his head, and then people go and like have cherry like viewing, flower viewing on the top of his head. Let's see. Pencils for Life says, I really, really want to see Monster Chopper and or General Frankie fight T-Rex Drake so that we can have a kaiju battle in this Japanese-influenced arc.
Oh,
What are
man.
some dream matchups or team-ups you guys are hoping for this arc?
Ooh, now this is a question.
Well,
I mean,
now I want that one.
Bangs.
Do we know any of the other characters, like Chopper versus Speed, because they're both on hooves? I don't know. We don't know that many of the other characters. Like, who would you have face Hawkins? Law, really?
I think it's too early to match up like who's fighting who.
Yeah.
Just because we've like in the past couple chapters we've gotten two headliners and they're pretty goofy. Luffy pretty much one-shotted Hold'em, so I can only assume that we're gonna be introduced to a whole lot more. If my hunch is correct, and we've gotten Joker and Jack in the past, and I'm looking forward to King and Queen and
Right.
the rest of that suit.
Was I forget, was that Kaido or Blackbeard who had Kid held captive?
Oh, it's Kaido.
That was Kaido.
Yeah.
Okay, so he could, he should be a part of this arc as well.
Yes.
At some point.
I've got a theory that Kid is going to be the law to this arc that law. Yeah, but like law was to Dressrosa, basically.
Like if they get kidnapped or something, and then they have to work with Kid to break out or something. Yeah.
Or this is where Kid is going to come into his own and also err on the side of the Straw Hats. Like they're meeting on Shabandi. There's that panel with the three of them facing off against the Marines. I think that we're going to get a repeat of that.
It's going to be the Bakugo of One Piece.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good. I would call that a pretty apt comparison.
I'm like, did like Horikoshi actually like scoop Oda on that one? Like Oda was taking so long to work Kid into the story that he lost the archetype to Bakugo.
I think about that a lot. Like, with all these new artists, is Oda ever like, oh, you stole my thing?
And the other artist's like, you can't have everything.
Yeah.
It's sort of like how Luffy kind of looks up to Shanks, and he's the reason he became a pirate. But Shanks is also the reason that Kid became a pirate, probably. But he just wants to take him down. Yeah, it's like the Bakugo.
Yeah.
Hey, I liked the guy with red hair. That's my guy.
That's right.
You stole my bit.
All right. Let's see. This will be my last question from Reddit. Serpentscape says, this has been bugging me for years now. Why is it that some of the males in One Piece have leg hair and some don't? I'm used to men in manga not having leg hair at all, but Oda choosing to give some characters like Sanji, Rayleigh, and Shanks leg hair, leaving some without, like Luffy, Zoro, and Ace, just baffles me. Is this just Oda being Oda?
Yeah, pretty much, I think. I mean, and Frankie, too. I'm just looking at this figure I have here.
Yeah.
And has the leg hair drawn in.
Nobody has armpit hair.
Good.
Yeah.
Not yet. No.
Well, you also don't see them
Armpit,
sweating
no
through their
knee.
shirts.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's just a difference of just like, oh, really hairy and not really hairy. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like Oda's, like he has some kind of internal calibration. He's like, okay, does this guy have hairy legs or not? And then
it's like the ice chewing question.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he's like, this guy has hairy legs, and no, this one doesn't.
Mm-hmm. All right. So that's the last of Reddit. Then it's time to piece the tweet. Time to piece the tweet, everybody. First one comes from Pierre Bankov, who says, so, do you think Momo and the gang met Vegeta and the gang or something? That training room is said to be infinite, after all. All right.
Is this like a time travel thing? Is that what or time?
I thought I'm not really sure what he's going for there, but I thought it was kind of funny. All right. Next one comes from Molly Wapping, who says, when we see the graves at the end of this week's chapter, there's 2 retainers unaccounted for. Could they belong to Dogstorm and Cat Viper? Or is there 2 other characters affiliated with the family that we don't know about? I mean, I feel like there's more graves in that graveyard than just the ones we saw, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think necessarily you have to have everyone accounted for with a specific character. It can just be like, here's like the symbolic graveyard patch or whatever. But I mean that it works. Like I think you could make that argument, I guess.
All right, next one comes from Yin Tabef, who says, it's just occurred to me that the Straw Hats were the villains of the Whole Cake Island arc. It was peaceful there, and the normal citizens well fed. Trapped there, but happy, but by the time the Straw Hats left, the country was mostly destroyed. Yes, most of the damage was caused by Big Mom, but the Straw Hats caused her to go berserk by destroying the wedding cake, so to the normal citizens of the country, their lives were destroyed by the Straw Hats, and they're still trapped there.
I don't think anybody's happy in Whole Cake Island. I think it's just like alive, but like not really.
I guess. Oh well, she shouldn't have kidnapped Sanji.
Very true.
That's what happens. That's what you get. All right, next one comes from Return to Sabaudi, who says, do you guys think Otama will tame a bunch of Smile users and make them fight on the Straw Hat's side?
I would like to see that.
Yes. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. That would turn the tide a lot and make the battles a lot more fun, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's actually kind of like what happened with Zeus and Whole Cake Island.
Mm.
Yeah. Nura G123 says, examples from popular fairy tales were always used in One Piece, like the Kraken, the Flying Dutchman, King Neptune. However, I watched the Skypiea special, I realized the giant beanstalk was also used in the story. I always assumed the giant beanstalk would be used in Elbaf.
Yeah, no, it's called Giant Jack.
Of course.
It's right there.
Mm.
All right, Sniper of My Heart says, where do you think Speed went? We didn't see her at the end with Luffy and the villagers. Does Otama's power have a time limit? Well, based on Kumachio, you'd think not. But the time limit.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
don't know. He kind of yada-yada'd that. Did not really. He did not really make that clear in the manga.
Yeah.
What do you call it when you tie the horses up, like outside your bar?
Yeah, in the stable. Yeah.
Maybe they'll ride
We'll
her up
see.
to the graveyard.
I was
The,
just going to say that.
Yeah.
The hitching post, I guess. Is that
There
what
you
that's
go.
called?
Mhm.
Right. It's Aura asks, if the Marines were to look for the One Piece and find it, would it end the pirate era?
If what happened?
If the Marines found the One Piece.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, it is interesting that they aren't really doing that. Or, I mean, maybe they are. We don't know what Vegapunk's up to, but, like, it doesn't seem to be their goal. Only pirates are looking for it.
Yeah. Well, they just want to deter. Mostly.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if you go by the, sort of family of theories that whatever the One Piece is kind of like, a world transforming, or has the potential to transform the world, then like they wouldn't, I mean, if they found it, they certainly wouldn't be telling anyone, or they would just be, forming more obstacles to prevent pirates from getting there, I guess, is the way that I would see that. So they wouldn't necessarily be just like, oh, well, now it's over.
Right. All right, next one comes from Pirate Merriman, who says, Maddie's Twitter handle got me thinking. What if Strawberry had a berry family, like a cousin named Raspberry, grandma and grandpa named Lingonberry and Goji Berry? Also, you think they'd all have tall heads?
The one who's from Skypiea is named Cloudberry. That's a thing.
I want them all to have different shaped heads.
Pinkberry.
Like someone has like a square head, a trapezoid head.
Just like a long head, like the weird looking fox from Long Ring Long Leg.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting to sound like Katamari characters to me.
Yeah, the cousins.
Let's see. Next one comes from Ghost Starch, who says, do you think Kaido actually cares about his calamities? I find it odd that he would have killed Doflamingo for losing the smiles, yet forgave Jack for failing to recover both Raizo and Doflamingo. Or maybe he just values Jack's power too much to demote or kill him.
I mean, Jack works for him directly. Doflamingo was like a partner. A trading partner. So
Right.
that's a very different relationship, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. Also, Jack seems to be the most valuable member of his crew by far at this point.
Yeah, that
Besides.
we know of.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Next one comes from Super Ninja Clone, who says, Crackpot theory. Could the ghost be a hologram type of message from the past? Some kind of weird hockey-imbued thing. This is like Force Ghosts, and I'm not sure if I like it.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
I'm thinking less Force Ghosts and more yokai.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay.
Well, they need an astromech droid to play the messages anyway, so.
Yeah. All right. This one is, I'll move on. 20th Century Girl says, the last panel in mind, I recalled when Momonosuke said he met Roger back in Zou. Now I still think that the theory of the voice of all things can reach the dead. But what do you guys think? Also, final chapter of the Straw Hat Fleet, Part 1, Subsection A. I like that. Yeah, what do you think about the voice of all things? Can you speak with the dead?
I mean, that was kind of implied, wasn't it? Or I can't forget. I can't remember what was like theorized, what was like Greg's theory, because I think that was part of his grand theory back during that that the X marks the spot scene was that Luffy would be somehow able to commune. Like we would get the story through actually talking to the characters or interacting with the characters from the past somehow. I don't know how much how much evidence there actually is in what we know through the story, but that the idea is definitely floating out there, I would say. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, and also, skipping ahead here, we have another one from 91 Ryan who says, "I don't believe that we're going to get the revelation that we've been with ghosts the whole time. I'm in the camp that they faked their deaths." I mean, at the same time, that sounds more plausible, but also it would be just kind of a lame reveal if that was if it was just that they faked their deaths. Like, how does that shock Zoro? Like,
right?
I don't. Yeah, you have to. I feel like you have to do a lot to shock him.
I kind of had this thinking that maybe the faking the death part isn't the shocking part, but maybe it's, this sort of symbol of the resistance where people are like pretending to be them or dressing up as ghosts and trying to like either foil Kaido or, like do something. It's almost like a overblown out Scooby-Doo episode, where someone's dressed up like a ghost, but they're kind of using this to say like everyone's haunting Wano, to try to rectify it.
Scooby Spartacus.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Spartacus.
All right. Cracker
No, like I'm
You're
Spartacus.
the boys from...
Oh, no.
All right. Cracker Jakku says, "Why have we yet to see a Minkan Kaido's crew? Is Oda saving that reveal for when we find out how Jack managed to get to Zou?" It's always it's a lingering question of how he got there.
Probably swam. No, never mind. He's a hammer. So
got to Zou in the first place.
How he found it.
Maybe there's a mole.
Literally and figuratively.
Oh my god, a mole.
Molly. Yeah.
And he looks like Morocco Mole.
He'll be detained. Okay, next one from Johnny24. It says, "Hey OPP, by the end of the series, what mysteries are you hoping get solved and or remain a secret? Thanks, keep up the great work."
At this point, I'm kind of leaning towards I want the Thriller Bark shadow thing mystery to stay a mystery. It's like it's just like the Bermuda Triangle thing where it's just like, I don't know, nobody ever knows.
I still think that my theory about ores in the continent polar is going to be that's a mystery that I'd like to see, or at least a theory I have that I'd like confirmed or disproven. Like the ores characters, like, man, why introduce them if it's just for that? I feel like there's got to be more there.
Still want Sora to be like a super villain.
Yeah, that's the one thing that like I kind of wanted. I wanted more light shed on the relationship between Judge and Sora.
Yeah,
and how exactly does the comic strip relate to everything?
Yeah, and on Whole Cake Island, the Whole Cake Island trained. I'm still waiting to learn more about what was actually going up between Pudding and Lola and Big Mom. Felt like there was some sort of arc being gestured at there.
Yeah, that part seems like it's probably, with the whole Loki thing, then the betrothal, like that seems like that's where that was going to go in terms of like Elbaf or whatever.
All right. Next one comes from Mick Bryce, who says, "Does anyone else think this arc is an extremely slow burn so far? We've been in Wano for months, and we haven't seen Kaido as Shogun, and the story doesn't really have a direction yet. I've been current since Impel Down, and this is the most drained I felt in One Piece." You got through Dress Frozen?
I mean, calling 2 months is a little disingenuous, I think.
Yeah. Well, and also, there was a point where I sort of felt that, like, I was getting a little tired of the whimsicalness of Wano, but just as that happened, we get this sort of emotional connection with Tama, and I'm brought all the way, like, it was worth it. It was worth sort of building that emotional connection with this little kid character, which, as you said, it's normally a filler type thing where these kids, they don't really mean anything, but taking the time to establish this and establish the sort of the privation and deprivation of Wano and the poor people there, I think it was all worth it.
I feel like probably the people who are feeling this strain the most are the ones who are super locked in, who are part of the like power level rankings faction that are just waiting to, all they want to know about is like who is what commander and who should be able to beat them and who shouldn't be able to beat them, so that we can say if this is good storytelling or bad storytelling. And those people have been starved for all of that sort of stuff. And whereas Oda's just been kind of telling us this very whimsical, silly, old-timey Japan little local story first. And so if you haven't been like waiting for that sort of drip feed of info, I think it's just been fun. I don't necessarily get the the slow pacing issue, because it's been pretty entertaining overall.
Yeah, I'd say that this arc is actually moving at a pretty great pace. It's basically set up then action.
Mm-hmm.
And we've kind of put a cap on, to use Steven's parlance from earlier, a cap on this little Tama little mini arc story thing. And we're getting ready to move on to the next bit. So I feel like the way Oda wants to tell Wano is going probably at the reasonable pace that it should. And I mean, look, I've been following One Piece Weekly since End of Skypiea. I've definitely felt way more drained in other arcs. Way more.
Dressrosa and Fishman Island come to mind.
Yes, combined, yeah, and certain parts of other arcs as well. But I think there was a point in Thriller Bark where I was getting a little fatigued. Mm-hmm. But this is just what happens when you follow a comic like this week to week. It's gonna feel a little slow sometimes.
Yeah. All right, our last one this week comes from QuipQuest, who says, "Is it possible that Pudding's memory fruit was originally used to edit and replace all knowledge of the Void Century, before all physical records were also burned? Heck, maybe that only happened 30 years ago instead of 800. Time is only a perception." He also hashtagged awakening, so I guess this is his awakening of Pudding's devil fruit.
I mean, I think that's a lot less, not to throw water on that fire.
By all means, throw water.
I just think that's a lot less interesting of an idea than like an entire world-spanning government like doing everything in its power to stamp out knowledge of said thing, and the symbolism of that kind of heavy-handed, forcefulness, I guess, is I think more compelling from a story perspective.
Yeah, I don't like this new insta-fascism. I like old-fashioned boot on the neck fascism.
Yeah, you had a personal connection.
Yeah, exactly. All right, that's it for the Piece Together this week. Shall we move to the end of the show?
Yeah.
This has been the One Piece Podcast, episode 538 for the week of Monday, September 24th, 2018, covering episode 854 in the anime, chapter 918, Luffy Taro Returns the Favor in the manga. I just want to thank everyone for coming on this week, and if, I guess if you're listening to this, you please support us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast. Want to get that in there. But, I just want to thank everyone for coming on the show this week. Sam, how can the people out there contact you?
They can find me on Twitter at Lucky Chainsaw. They can find me on the One Piece Podcast every week doing the anime recaps. And they can find me on AnimeNewsNetwork.com doing the daily streaming reviews for One Piece, My Hero Academia, which is almost over, and Black Clover, which is apparently not.
Yeah, all right. Cool. Kelly, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Karuri, as well as the One Piece Podcast site, where I post different news articles.
And we hope to have you, I think, doing your own segment on a future episode, or at least next time the manga's off, to talk about your recent ventures to Japan.
Yes, a few of us were able to go to the Jump Anniversary exhibits, so I think we're going to have a little bit of a post-mortem on some of that stuff soon.
Right on. I think we may also get to hear from Dennis, who was also recently in Japan.
Yes.
And Steven, where can the good people out there find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Translatosaurus.
All right. And Alex?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at dude! All one word. You can also listen to me monthly on Toho Yaro, the Japanese Film Club podcast that I do with Scott Dryman and Joey Weiser. This past month's episode is Kamikaze Girls, which is an awesome movie. You don't even have to watch the episode; just go find the movie and watch it. It's really great. And next month we are doing Invasion of the Astro Monster, aka Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, and we have Grant at Grant the Thief on as a guest. So look forward to that episode, which is going to drop sometime next week. And you can also see me and Super Art Fight at Anime USA in Washington, D.C. the weekend of the October 19th through the 21st. And that's it for me.
Fantastic. All right, Steve, and where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, Steve Yurko. That's all one word. Another plug for a new podcast I'm trying out with our good friend Doctor. It's called Toon Sweet. You have to be a wrestling fan. Yes, it's another wrestling podcast, but it's a podcast where we talk about those special 2 minutes that everyone loves. It's the entrances. We're talking about entrance music in wrestling. Give it a shot if that sounds like your thing. It can be found on Doctor's Patreon feed, SSAA podcast.
You know, Steve, I told two of my friends who are super into wrestling the name of your podcast, and they burst out laughing for about 2 minutes.
I'll talk about it right here. When Doctor and I were thinking about this, like, oh, what do we call it? That was the first thing I said, and it was like,
you just got to go with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, the first is the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was shocking because I came up with it.
You're pretty creative sometimes, Steve.
Yeah, I might draw.
All right. So the podcast can be found at OnePiecePodcast.com. And I'm at Edward E. One Piece on Twitter. The podcast at OnePiecePodcast.com, Twitter.com, YouTube.com, and Facebook.com/OnePiecePodcast. One Piece Podcast is our Skype name. OnePiecePodcast@gmail.com is our email address. Please support us, Patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast. Our subreddit is r/OnePiecePodcast. You can leave us some piece together there. Subscribe on SoundCloud. Subscribe on Stitcher. Subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts. Or call us on our phone number. That's 347-497-MAJI. That's 347-497-6254. Call anytime.
Anytime. Please.
Questions, your comments, your theories, your reasons why. No, it's too
me, man.
Yes. There you go. Reasons why he don't want me. All right. So, everybody, for the One Piece podcast, my name is Ed.
My name is Steve.
And my name is Alex.
And we'll see you next week, everybody. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.